Hey, this is Notser. We're looking at 0.5.6 patch preview. This is the public test server, and I don't really care that it's Trident. I don't really care that there's very few ships. All I care about is describing what I see on the minimap. Look at the minimap, okay? That is probably the most noticeable change that you'll see. Now, the minimap has gone through a lot. And what it is trying to do is display information that I try and provide in my videos all the time. AA range, secondary battery range, the ship detectability, the detectability by air. Those sort of things are very important. And it's very important that you know these numbers, have an idea, and it allows you to customize it almost 100%. You cannot turn off your main battery range indicator or your torpedo. And unlike the current patch, 0.5.5, and every other patch before it, you have to have both your main battery and your torpedoes displayed on the minimap all times. Now, you might have caught sight. The torpedo indicator highlights whenever you have the torpedo selected, and the main battery highlights whenever you have the main battery selected. But it's always there. AA, secondary detectability, all those can be completely disabled. I actually don't have the AA detectability on the screen. Neither do I have the secondary. The yellow rings are AA, and they basically display every single different range phase for your AA. So a ship might have 3 or 4 different ranges where more AA comes online, and that's displayed. With the number, you also notice that when I'm firing my gun, the ship detectability ring expands greatly to show off exactly how far away you will be detected. So let's just go into the settings menu. And the settings menu, you can pretty much predict it if you paying attention. It's that little gearbox or the little gears on the top right corner of the minimap, and you can interact with it and you can display AA gun range, secondary gun range. AA is yellow, secondary gun range is green. The detectability range for the air is sort of a teal, and then the detectability for sea is sort of a light blue. And you can just see how many rings, and the numbers apparently move around based on how many you have selected. It's pretty busy, right? There are a lot of different indicators, and it's just too much to me. It's just too much, and you can turn on or turn off based on what you want. But the thing that I really want to do is I want to turn off those numbers. I like the rings, but these numbers, I don't need the numbers. So yeah, you can customize it. It feels great. But Wargaming, if you watch my stuff, give me an option to turn off the numbers that are associated with these rings. I don't need to know that my attack range is 14.9 all the time. I don't need to see that my torpedo range is 10 all the time. I know that ring indicates 10 kilometers. I don't need the number on my screen. That's the way I feel about it. Now, you might notice another thing. Whenever I hold the right mouse button, for those who don't know that this is how I play the game, I use the right mouse button to look around my ship without moving my turrets. And previously to this, there was nothing to tell you that that's what I was doing. But now, you will get a locked indicator that will confirm that your right mouse button is being held and it's locking the turrets in its position. There's also a mountain range or an island indicator if you might be firing into it or over it, and you can customize that to a degree. So let's get into a real game on Okinawa. We are in the Tier 7 Japanese cruiser, Myoko, and I wanted to play this ship because it has a brand new premium skin that you might catch sight of. It's a dark green with a couple red highlights, and I think that's the Japanese blue, the steel color, whatever. You can see I've already sort of customized my minimap to a degree, and I like it like this. I think the lines are great. Don't get me wrong, this information is fantastic. I just wish I could turn off the numbers so I didn't have to deal with so much wasted space. You could just see how these numbers can overlap enemy ships that are in the area. I just find that very worthless, because the minimap really is your lifeblood, and it's going to be even more important than it already is, because you can ride that line for the range of your AA or the range of your detectability much easier. And we're headed over to A. A on Okinawa is very, very clogged up, and I'm going to try and see how well I do. I see an enemy Tashkent going up against the Benson. The Benson is dealing with torpedoes. He's dealing with a lot of gun damage. I'm going to just try and assist. And that little locked indicator shows back up. It's really nice that it displays for players who maybe aren't familiar with how a player is taking advantage of looking around. You know, how are you doing that without moving your turrets? Well, this is the right mouse button. And we do 4,000 points of damage to the Tashkent, knock out his propulsion. I'm going to take one last shot as the last known position and see if that sticks. Oh yeah, it stuck. Now, A is interesting. It's really clogged. Really clogged. I would not recommend going in there unless you are 100% sure that you can take out the enemies, or you have some way of protecting yourself with smoke or an exit strategy. And that's sort of how I'm going to address this. I switched to AP because I'm going to go after that enemy Myoko. He's in the German army, and we're going to try and take that guy out. He might show his side. We'll have to see. At least that's my hope. Now, A is extremely clogged, right? I'm going to try and exit out the north side of A if necessary. Now, I don't believe I'm going to capture him, but I have the intent to take out the enemy. The smoke is in the way. He's going to get pretty close before he's actually visible to me. Also notice the last known position on the south side of the minimap. That's pretty useful. It's pretty good. I just wish it was a little bit different color than the dead corpse, because that could sort of bait you into thinking, oh man, there might be an enemy there, or they're dead, right? It's, you know, it's obvious if you look at it, but you shouldn't have to look at your mini-map with both eyes. You should have the ability to just take a quick glance and understand exactly what you're seeing. I'm going to send out my torpedoes, and you can see the little flash of the highlight from main battery to the torpedo systems. I don't know if he expects it, but we're trying to angle against his AP. I think he fired AP at my torpedo launcher, which is, yep, he's trying to fire it. Okay, we're good. Don't want to run into the island. That would be bad. Introduction to Okinawa, and we run into it, and we ran right into him with our torpedoes. Took him out. Devastating strike. We had an advantage, I felt like. I'm not seeing a safe way to get out from the south side of that area. It looks like you're either 100% committed, or you're looking for enemies to not be in the position. Now, you caught sight that fighter. Usually, it wouldn't indicate the distance it is from your ship, because it would be a cruiser or a battleship fighter. But now you see it. You know exactly how close you need to be, and that's great. This enemy Colorado, we're gonna capture the base first before we go after him. C, completely wide open. I would never go there as a primary. It's just too wide open. It's sort of like the Atlantic, that B point. You don't want to go there unless you're a destroyer and you have a way out, right? Cruisers and battleships, you will die so quickly if you try and go for it. Even B is wide open. I'm going to sort of skip ahead to more action related to the map itself. I'm just engaging a Colorado at long range. We do really massive damage with HE, but let's get to more aspects of the map that are unique. It's not unique to engage a ship out in the open. Now, we're going around to B. B has sort of an average size island that can provide some cover. We run into an enemy Amagi, and the Amagi is, it's a good ship, right? Tier 8, showing a perfect broadside. There are a couple destroyers that were last seen in that location, and we have to deal with that. And we will, of course we will. but the enemy is trying to deal with torpedoes, and I've got a friendly cruiser that's aggressively trying to go up against the enemy battleship, and I'm just trying to land some HE and get some fires, right? But B's pretty wide open, right? Other than that island, there's nothing to protect the player whatsoever. There's a couple token islands that you might run into, right? Pull a Notser. I'm just loathing the day. A is going to be my kryptonite. I foresee A on Okinawa is just going to cause so much frustration for me. He's sort of stuck. He's got to deal with an island. You can use that to your advantage. I'm just going to try and get in position to send my torpedoes. Remember the Japanese cruisers. The torpedo sending is not ideal in this enemy Fubuki. He's using the premium camouflage, which is pretty generic, honestly. I much prefer this Myoko. This Myoko is very pretty. I like this dark, deep green, the reds, and the steel. And I'm trying to don't careful of my torpedoes. It's always important that you tell your teammates when you try and assassinate them. I'm not trying to kill them, but it basically is what's happening. And unfortunately, I have put myself in position to take a torpedo because I was just so busy talking to my teammate, but I wouldn't change it for a second. He's getting in position to send his torpedoes. He's going to land 3. 3 are not enough, but this Amagi, he's going to die. He's just so low, right? He does put out the flood in the fire, and I think he's getting a torpedo hit, right? Yep, there he goes. Now we got this enemy Fubuki, and I would love to take him out. The enemy team continued pushing through C. It was basically, we have more people than you do. You can't really stop us. And that's how I see the C point. It's just so wide open. It's a fleet action. You do not want to move forward unless you have full support from your team. Whereas A is much more nuanced. You're going to have destroyers go in. You're going to have destroyers come out. You're going to have cruisers try and provide support. You'll have line of sight blockers in the islands. It's going to be interesting. B is very wide open as well, but there is a token island that's rather large that you can hide behind and capture. I'm sure that's probably going to be used by both sides, and we'll see how well that works. Okay, so I'm just going to skip ahead to the end score screen because that has changed a lot as well. We've got enemies being engaged by friendlies. I'm moving to capture C. We're going to win the game, right? I always play to win the game, even in a public test server. So the end score screen is now comprised of 4 tabs rather than 3. And there's a couple interesting aspects that they are displaying on the end score screens that you might appreciate, prefer, thankful to, you know. One of the biggest changes, it is going to be displaying the damage you have done in the battle. And just to be annoying, it's the last item that's displayed rather than the first item like the mod. And we're going to go to the team score screen. It's a little bit more cleaned up. It's a little bit more obvious who has survived, who hasn't. And I think it's displaying your rank, if I'm not mistaken. That's the rank that you have earned on your account. Now look at this data. This data is crazy. Okay, so it's displaying how much damage you did per ship, whether you killed that ship, and it will break it out for main battery, HE, AP, how many shells you fired, how many hit, torpedoes, torpedo damage, secondary. It also shows fires and floods caused, how much damage they did, the warships that you killed, the aircraft that you destroyed, and I know that it will display exactly what type of aircraft you killed. So if it's a fighter, torpedo bomber, dive bomber, that sort of thing. The time and distance almost identical, and it will show out all of this for received. It'll also display how many modules were damaged. So you might decide, hey, I'm losing steering and propulsion a lot. Let's go for last stand. That's great. The final tab, credits and XP, same information as before. Okinawa looks interesting. I will try and share the 3 other maps as well. Let me know what you think of the minimap changes. What would you do? I hope you have a fantastic day, and I'll catch you next time.